So now we got that understanding. So now we go to number two of the ways that the modern Hebrew women have hatred for Hebrew men. It says they don't like the concept of Yahweh and Yahshua getting the honor and praise. See, modern women of today, they not used to men just focusing on Yahweh and Yahshua all the time, right? They mainly getting all the attention. Like the Hebrew women of today, they mainly are used to getting all the attention on social media. They are mainly used to getting all the praise. So they know the Hebrew men that's in the truth, they're not gonna give those wicked sisters the praise. So they say, hey, I know I'm not living right, but these men are not focusing on me. They focus on Yahweh's righteousness. So that's what the mindset of the Hebrew women are, in modern day times. They know the Hebrew man is not going to be focused on them like that. So they go after the wicked men of the world, because that's how they're going to get their praise. So that's why you have a lot of falling out in relationships between the Hebrew man that's in the truth, right, and a woman that's not in the truth. It's a falling out, okay, because the Hebrew man in general supposed to be focused on Yahweh and Yahshua ways, right? Okay, they supposed to be focused on their ways and how to live right according to their standards, right? Not according to the world America standards. See, our modern Hebrew women, they're trying to live according to the world standards of living, turning up, having a good time, not focusing on Yahweh's righteousness. So that's where the conflict comes in at. So we're going to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 22, to get the understanding that it's hard to find a good woman these days for the Hebrew man that's in the truth. And there's reasons why. This is why. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. It says, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of Yahweh. So it's hard to find a wife. That's why it said whoso findeth. It didn't say everyone findeth a wife. You know what I'm saying? It said whoso findeth a wife. Talking about a wife of understanding. That's what it's saying. Okay, anybody can just in general just get married today. But we're talking about a wife with understanding of Yahweh's righteousness. That's why it's going to become a good thing. Because you got a wife of Yahweh's mind and Yahshua's mind. Because she's obedient to Yahweh's laws. Okay, but modern Hebrew women don't want to keep Yahweh's laws. And this is how you obtain a favor of Yahweh, because why? You got your woman that's in the truth. You Hebrew men, you got a woman in the truth. That's how you're going to obtain favor of Yahweh, because you didn't get this woman based off lust. You got this woman based on you got this woman on the basis of her repenting as a Hebrew woman, her trying to learn the ways of how to be a Hebrew woman under your rule, under your understanding as a Hebrew man, because you have built yourself up to be a leader for the nation of Israel. So they can see a pattern of good works. That's why it's important to findeth a good wife, or findeth a wife, okay, of understanding of Yahweh's righteousness. But modern Hebrew women are not going to have this understanding to be a good wife. So that's why they don't normally become wives. They become baby mamas. They become what? Side chicks. These terms. Okay? It's easy to find those type of women, right? But it's hard and challenging to find a wife with Yahweh's understanding. Okay? Let's go to the next one. It says Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 verse 1, and Ecclesiasticus is basically in the book of the Apocrypha. Okay, so, or you can go by the book of Sirach. It's Ecclesiasticus or the book of Sirach chapter 25 verse 1. Okay, they got two different names. Okay, it says, in three things I was beautified and stood up beautiful both before Elohim and men. So these three things, right? When you stand before the Most High, you're going to be looking presentable to the Most High Yah and Yahshua, okay? And also to the men of understanding of leadership qualities in the Hebrew Israelite faith. It says the unity of brethren. So that's the one key principle that you have to have. Unity of brethren, okay? That's going to be in the good eyesight of the Most High Yah and his son, Yahshua HaMashiach. Then it says the love of neighbors. So you have love for your people, right? The blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, right? You have love for the nation of Israel, meaning you willing to deliver the children of Israel this information on who they are, what they need to do to return to the Lord, and you showing good attributes by having a platform so they can have access to the information so they can change their life. So you showing love to your neighbor, okay? And then it says number 3, it says a man and a wife that agree together. You see that, Israel? So a man and a wife. It didn't say a man and a girlfriend. It said a man and a wife that agree together. So a wife has to agree with the husband because the man is the head, or the husband is the head of that house. These are the 3 things that is beautified or presented to the Most High Yah with good order, okay, and structure. But again, as you can see, modern Hebrew women of today, they don't agree with the Hebrew faith, right? They don't agree with the Hebrew faith. So it's a constant conflict in the household. Okay, it's a constant conflict in the household. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. We're in the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 verse 2. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 verse 2. It says, wine and women will make men of understanding to fall away. So again, it says wine, or quote unquote alcohol, right? Right? Alcohol and women will make men of understanding to fall away, because most of the time men get drunk, intoxicated, and they get hooked up with the wrong type of woman off of lust or off of not having a clear head, a clear mind, right? But if the man was sober, he would actually have seen this woman is out of her mind. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of times you can't see clearly if you're drunk. You're going to be like, oh, man, this woman look good. She got it going on. But if you was a sober brother in the mind, you would have seen this sister wasn't all the way upstairs, meaning she didn't have intelligence of Yahweh's righteousness. She didn't have intelligence that it's not okay to sleep around. She did not have the intelligence. It's not okay to just, mismanage your children. It's not okay to what? Depend on the government 100%. And the women don't have to do anything. This is the attributes that the men of today are lacking. Okay, because they have alcohol involved and lust. Okay, let me read this again. Wine and women will make men of understanding to fall away. Yes, to fall away into sin. And it says, and he that cleaveth to harlots, it said, and he that cleaveth to harlots will become impudent. You see that, Israel? So again, when a man is simple-minded, meaning he's drunk, right? Go to the club, turn up. He's going to what? Cleave to harlots. He's going to chase out the women that don't have his good intentions. He's going to get hooked up with the wrong type of women. And now he's going to be what? Trapped in a box. Because these women, the harlots, may have AIDS, STDs, syphilis. They may have these type of viruses going on. Okay, but because you're drunk with wine, you Hebrew man, you're going to get caught off guard. Oh, these women may trap you just to get put on child support. Okay, all because you're not following Yahweh's word. Okay, and let's find out what the word impudent means. Okay, let's find out the word impudent. It says impudent. Okay, it says rude and not showing respect, especially towards someone who is older or in a more important position. You see that, Israel? It says rude and not showing respect. So that's basically what impudent means. Okay? And he that cleaveth to harlots will become impudent. You see this? And he that cleaveth to harlots will become impudent. So you're going to become what? A person that don't respect people. Okay? It says impudent, rude, and not showing respect, especially towards someone who is older or in a more important position. So again, you're going to lack a portion of respect for yourself. You can become basically stupid. A person that don't have common sense. Okay. But now we go to, it said, cleaving to harlots will become impudent. Okay. That's what the Bible says. So you're not going to have no respect for yourself because you cleaving to harlots who don't respect them own selves. Harlots do not respect their own selves. That's why you're going to be impudent, because you're dealing with harlots, because harlots don't respect themselves. Okay. So you're going to become just like them, you Hebrew men. So that's why it's better to what? Seek after women that's after Yahweh's righteousness. Point blank period. Okay, so now we got that understanding with that. So now we're going to go to number 3, about the modern Hebrew women have hatred for Hebrew men. This is another understanding why the modern Hebrew women have hatred for Hebrew men. Okay, it's because number 3, they like the pagan holiday traditions. Okay, Israel. So a lot of times you're going to see a lot of modern Hebrew women liking the pagan holiday traditions of the world. You know, when the Hebrew men come into the truth, they forsake the pagan holidays of the world. But a lot of women are going to still hold on to that understanding as far as the pagan traditions on these pagan holidays. Okay, so, but again, in general, the women are following after the worldly men, because the men in general are the leaders. So they have a portion of worldly men following those customs. They're going to still seek after those men that's following the pagan tradition. Okay. Which, of course, majority of the men in general are going to be following after pagan customs or pagan holidays. So that's why these women have more to choose from than the Hebrew men, because it's not that many Hebrew men in the truth like that. But it's more men in the world that's following the customs of the world. So that's why they're not gravitating to you Hebrew brothers like that. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 15 is going to be an example of the characteristics of the Hebrew women back in ancient times that used to worship a pagan goddess over following Yahweh's word. But initially it was because the men in general was the ones at this time following after wickedness in general. So that's why the women followed after the men that was doing the same thing. But the women wanted to do it on their own eventually, even without the men. And it's going to prove it. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, because the Hebrew men that went off into wickedness, they knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, because these men at this time were weak men that basically allowed their own wives to break Yahweh's laws by worshiping other deities. And it says, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, so these particular men that went to live in Egypt, right, with their wives, right, because that's what our people normally do. They follow the ways after the other nations. But we had a portion of Hebrew men and Hebrew women living in Egypt at the time. And it says they was living in the land of Egypt and Pathros. So they was living in a city that was called Pathros in Egypt. Okay. And they was worshiping idol gods in this land under the Egyptians' kingdom. Okay. And Jeremiah is basically telling them not to do it. Okay. So we're going to go, and Jeremiah is a prophet. Okay. He's trying to tell the Hebrew men and Hebrew women not to do these things, of course. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 16. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of Yahweh, we will not hearken unto thee. So you had Hebrew men and Hebrew women that was living in Egypt. They did not want to listen to Jeremiah the prophet's words on them. Stop worshiping these idol gods and worship Yahweh. Of course, they didn't want to hear the word of the Most High from Jeremiah the prophet. Okay, so again, the Hebrew men and the Hebrew women did not want to hearken unto Jeremiah's words, which of course was the Most High Yah's words speaking through Jeremiah the prophet. Okay, keep on going. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 17. But we will certainly do whatsoever we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, because the Queen of Heaven had different titles in Egypt. So most people may say it was the goddess Isis, right? But again, Egypt had many different goddesses. Okay, so Jeremiah wrote down, okay, the Queen of Heaven, because they all go back to the same thing. Okay, but just different name titles. But Egypt had a goddess being referred to as the Queen of Heaven. Okay, it says, unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. So again, the children of Israel that was living in Egypt was boasting about their great success when they was what? Practicing wicked abomination practices. So they was like saying, hey, we did this in Jerusalem. And also we're going to do this custom as far as worshiping a idol god or idol goddess, right? That was going against the laws of the Most High. We're going to do it still in Egypt. Okay. And this is what the children of Israel was doing back then, similar to modern day Christianity. You know, when you fast forward today, modern day Christianity, our people, even though the Hebrew Israelites are telling the children of Israel in today's time, stop breaking Yahweh's laws, come out them churches, follow righteousness, keep these commandments, the children of Israel still want to hold on to Christianity. Okay, because it's traditional, right? To go to these Christian churches as a tradition, but it's a tradition of men. It's not the tradition of this Bible. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 18. It says, but since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. So they're saying if they, when they stopped worshiping the idols, they had bad times. You know, they was going through struggling and stuff like that when they stopped worshiping the idols. But then when they started worshiping idols, they trying to justify themselves saying, hey, we had good success, which is a lie. Okay. They did not have good success. But again, it's all a lie. Just like Christianity. They'll say, since we've been involved with Christianity, Christian faith, the Most High been blessing us. Right. But when you look in general as a nation of people, we're struggling out here, having hard times. Okay. Let's go to the next verse. Basically, history repeats itself. Okay. To get the analogy, understanding. Okay, I'll go to the next verse. This is book of Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 19. And when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her, and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men. Whoa, 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 whoa. You see this, Israel? So now the women are now saying, we did all this. We burnt incense to the Queen of Heaven, because this is the women talking now, and poured out drink offerings unto her. Did we make her cakes to worship her? So the sisters even got together to make cakes, or quote unquote birthday cakes, unto the goddess, the Queen of Heaven, and pour out drink offerings unto her. So they had wine, alcohol beverages, and they poured, you know, they had like a party gathering to celebrate the Queen of Heaven. And they did it without their men. It said without our men. So the women didn't even do this thing normally with the men. It was mainly the women pushing this notion to worship the goddess of heaven. Okay? Or the Queen of Heaven scenario. They did it without the men as well. Okay, so it's kind of like a boastful, arrogant spirit at this time that the Hebrew sisters had. And this is what the Hebrew sisters are doing today when they do these pagan customs like Mother's Day. Mother's Day is another form of worshiping the Queen of Heaven scenario, but just under different titles, different deities. Okay, Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 20. Then Jeremiah said unto all the people, to the men, and to the women, and to all the people which had given him that answer, saying. So Jeremiah now is going to answer these particular people that had words to say against him. Jeremiah 44, verse 21. Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 21. The incense that ye burn in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, ye and your fathers, your kings and princes, and the people of the land, did not Yahweh remember them, and came it not into his mind? So Jeremiah is trying to relate it back to the children of Israel who were in Egypt, right? The men and women of our nation, to tell them, hey, Yahweh seen all these things that you did in the land of Jerusalem at the time, and also in the land that you're dwelling at in Egypt. He sees all these things. That's basically what Jeremiah is saying. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 20. Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 22. So that Yahweh could no longer bear because of the evil of your doings, and because of the abominations which ye have committed, therefore is your land a desolation, and an astonishment, and a curse, without an inhabitant as at this day. You see that? Without an inhabitant as at this day. So Yahweh punished, of course, the children of Israel. Okay, that's why they mainly wasn't in Jerusalem at this time like that, because they got punished. Okay, they got punished to basically go into captivity under the Babylonian Empire. Okay, and most of them were scattered in Egypt and so forth, and other countries too as well. But you had a remnant of our people that was in Egypt, following the Egyptian customs. Okay, but again, the punishment was captivity by the Babylonian Empire. Okay, but they was boasting like, oh, we did this in Jerusalem and all this other stuff. But guess what? Jerusalem became an astonishment. That's what it said. Therefore, that's what it says. Therefore is your land a desolation. It's not the same place no more. Okay, and it says an astonishment and a curse, because it's a curse. It's basically a curse when you're not dwelling in your homeland, practicing your own laws and customs. That's a curse. Okay, that's what it says, without an inhabitant as at this day. Because there was no laws, no order set up in Jerusalem at this time, because of the punishment of the children of Israel by them forsaking the Lord by worshiping the Queen of Heaven. And that's mainly, when you fast forward today, the modern Hebrew women of today are practicing primarily pagan holiday traditions. And then when they find out the Hebrew men of today that's in the truth, they don't, if they're not following the ways of the world as far as following the pagan traditions, then the modern Hebrew women are going to have hatred towards their Hebrew brother, because the Hebrew brother is not keeping the customs of the pagans. They're not keeping the customs of America as far as these pagan holidays. So the connection is not going to be there, because the women of the world, who are the modern Hebrew women of the world of today, they follow pagan holiday traditions. The Hebrew men, the Black, Hispanic, Native American men that's in the Hebrew truth, they don't follow those traditions. So they're not going to be basically desirable to the modern Hebrew women of today.